Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting on August the 20th at 6 p.m. I'd like to remind you to silence your mobile devices at this time. If you have phones, pagers, whatever, please silence those so they will not interrupt our meeting tonight. I'll remind speakers and ask speakers, if you come to the podium, please be sure the red light comes on and is on when you speak so that we can get a good YouTube recording. Welcome to everyone. Madam Clerk, all commissioners are present tonight, along with manager, county attorney, finance officer, and planning director. With those notations, I would like to invite Pastor Keith Barnett to come and lead us in our invocation, and then we'll remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. That will be led by our county attorney, Mr. J.R. Simpson. Let's stand as Pastor Barnett leads us in prayer.
Your name and begin to thank you for all that you've done and what you're doing for us. We ask you for wisdom tonight. We ask you for guidance tonight. We ask you you bless each and every one that begins to speak with the wisdom that they need to speak with. Lord, we ask you to cover this town, cover this community and this county, God. We ask you to be a special eye out and protect our EMS and our law enforcement and our hospitals and all of our protections and fire department and all. We ask you to be with them everywhere they go. We ask you to bless this committee and this trial that they're doing and testing that they're doing and everything they're bringing to the community. We ask it to be done in your name and your will so that you could be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Please join me in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, gentlemen, that brings us to item number 4 of our agenda tonight, approval of the agenda. You've had the agenda in your possession for some time. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0, Madam Clerk. We have no minutes to approve tonight, so that'll bring us on to presentations, and we have 2 presentations tonight. And just before I begin the presentations, I want to recognize our incoming EMS director, Mr. James Robinson. James, wave at us. James is in the back. James also serves as the fire chief over at Chesterfield here in our community. We're glad to welcome him, and he'll be coming on board officially on September the 1st. So James, welcome. Glad to see you tonight. Thank you for being here. First item of presentation tonight will come from our sheriff, Sheriff Banks Heisman, recognition of deputies for heroic actions. Sheriff, good to see you.
Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. It's an honor. On June 12th, 2024, the Burke County Sheriff's Office answered 131 calls for service during that 24-hour period, which a lot of people are amazed that we can handle that many calls during a 24-hour shift. And I'm proud of all of my deputies that do a fantastic job. Today, I'm here to tell you about one specific call that really stands out and the actions of our deputies. Just stand right here. The actions of our deputies, Deputy Raymond Early and Deputy Candace White. On June 12, 2024, at about 9:40 a.m., Deputy Raymond Early and Deputy Candace White responded to the area of 2651 Campbell's Trace, Nebo. That's up there off 126 around Lake James, in reference to a 911 call regarding a person yelling. While en route, the deputies discovered that EMS was also being dispatched to the same address. in reference to a traumatic injury call. There was a male person who had been working with a piece of drilling machinery, and while he was working with that machinery, his arm got caught up in that machinery and amputated his arm above the elbow. Deputy Early arrived on the scene and immediately evaluated the injuries and applied a tourniquet, a combat application tourniquet, which is something we have been issuing to our deputies. And so far this year, this will be the second person that we have heard that we have saved their life with these combat tourniquets. The first one was on a motorcycle injury on Owens Mountain Road in the east end of the county. The deputy got there and saw the injuries were as bad as they were. And that night also, the paramedics told me that applying that tourniquet saved that man's life. And the same thing here. Quickly evaluated that scene and applied the tourniquet to control the bleeding. At about 4:37 p.m., Lieutenant Branch, which he's here in the audience, that's his supervisor, received a call from Major Hudson of Burke County EMS stating, "Tell Early and White that they knocked it out of the park." They saved the guy's life. A huge thank you. Major Hudson also sent an email with appreciation of their assistance, mentioning Deputy Early's immediate application of the tourniquet most likely saved the person's life. If you can just imagine what that scene looked like and to quickly evaluate that and make the right decision on how to treat that is pretty impressive. A Longtown Fire Department first responder was also on the scene and expressed his admiration for the two deputies' compassion while on the scene. He said that they held the patient's hand while the person was being treated to try to keep him calm during that situation. If you can imagine what that man was going through. So I'm proud of my deputies that they cared that much to try to help this man during this time. So I joined Lieutenant Tim Branch in presenting these letters of accommodations to Deputy Raymond Early and Deputy Candace White for their actions and positive impact they are making in our county. Both deputies served the citizens of Burke County and the Burke County Sheriff's Office with professionalism, integrity, and compassion. So I'll present those two letters of accommodations here. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Raymond. For Deputy Early's actions, we're going to present him the Life Saving Award. The Burke County Sheriff's Office awards Deputy Raymond Early the Life Saving Award. Raymond, for your fast thinking and swift professional actions on June 12, 2024, you were instrumental in saving a human's life. Thank you for your dedicated service to the citizens of Burke County and the Burke County Sheriff's Office. I appreciate you, Raymond, the work that you're doing.
Deputy Early and Deputy White, on behalf of this board and the citizens of the county, certainly want to thank you for your service. Thank you for caring for our citizens the way you did and for your heroic actions on that day. Thank you very much. Sheriff.
And real quick, I'd just like to say to the Burke County Sheriff's Office, the men and women of that Sheriff's Office, I am so proud of them, and so many of their actions go unnoticed every day. They do so many good things out in our community, and I hear it whenever I'm out and about, and I'm just proud to serve with these men and women. I am. It's just such a blessing to be there. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. Let's give these guys another round of applause. We are proud proud to recognize these guys and also proud of each and every other officer that serves our county every day and every night, 365 days a year, 24/7. I think many times we take that for granted. We don't think about it, but it is a tremendous task, and we appreciate all that they do to serve and protect our county. This brings us to item number 2 of presentations. This will be a recognition of Brent Meredith on completing the CGCIO course, and this will be presented by our IT Director, Scott Blackton. Scott, I'm sure you're going to tell us what CGCIO stands
I
for.
will do that, yes. It was a hard act to follow
That's a tough
earlier
act to
here. That's a
follow
very
right
tough
there.
act to follow, but, so CGCIO is the Certified Government Chief Information Officer Program. It's hosted by the School of Government at UNC Chapel Hill. And I had the opportunity to take that when I became IT Director back in 2020, and Brent took that course this past year. So, he successfully graduated from the 2023 Certified Government Chief Information Officers Program at UNC Chapel Hill School of Government. This program is the first local government program for CIOs in the nation, and it began in 2005. The program is designed for local government information technology directors and chief information officers whose challenging responsibilities require a broad understanding of management, leadership, legal, regulatory, and enterprise topics. The course is approximately 240 hours in length over a 10-month period, and instruction covers strategic technology planning, communication, emerging technology trends, risk assessment, management, acquisition management, change management, leadership, cybersecurity, and legal issues related to technology. The program's director, Dr. Shannon Tufts, has been recognized by Government Technology Magazine as one of the 2010 top 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers for the creation and the expansion of this nationally acclaimed program. The program seeks to elevate the position of the dedicated and talented group of public sector technology leaders who work tirelessly to serve the public good through strategic investments in technology. Brent is one of 40 local government, state agency, community college, K-12 education IT leaders in the state who successfully completed the course over this past year. Over the course of its existence, the CIO program has graduated over 2,000 public sector technology leaders across the nation. And I just wanted to have Brent come up and be recognized for all this hard work he did.
Brent, again, on behalf of the board, congratulate you on your accomplishments. And let me say also, I think everybody in this room would agree, information technology is important to each and every one of us. It's a critical function to our county. I'll pose the question this way. Anybody in this room not been in some fashion or another sometime ever had a cyber issue on your personal stuff? That's probably a lot of us. Maybe most of us don't want to raise our hand because we punched the wrong button. But again, this is an important function of our county. A lot of important work goes on in the information technology area. Again, we thank them as well for the work that they do for us. This brings us to item number 7, scheduled public hearings. We have a number of public hearings tonight. So we're going to begin with item number 1. This comes from Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2024-05 in public hearing. This will be presented by Alan Glines, our planning director. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners, members of the public. Tonight, we have a rezoning request from Lee Gregg. I'm not sure if Lee's in the room tonight, but he might be here. His property at 1955 Jamestown Road in Morganton is located in the Silver Creek Township area. Excuse me. He'd like to rezone 7 acres of a larger tract. It's about a 48-acre tract. He'd like to rezone about 7 acres from industrial to residential 3. That's a survey of that portion of the land he'd like to switch out. The area is undeveloped at this time. It's been rezoned. It's been zoned industrial for quite a number of years, but some of that use is not well located to be served for industrial purposes. So a little further off the interstate, it's a little more of a challenge there. So he's trying to figure out what to do with that property. I believe he's owned it for quite some time, though. Let's see here. The future land use map identifies this area for industrial purposes. It does tend to track with the current zoning of that area. And there are some other zoning, other industrial zone properties along with other residential uses in that area. So we kind of consider that to be a mixed use area that has been utilized over time for different purposes, commercial and other things up that way. And the current zoning map also shows that area for industrial, of course. The current land use plan for Burke County is the Blueprint Burke Strategic Plan, and Section 9 relates to economic development. The goal of Burke County is to support positive economic climate that encourages businesses to prosper, provides citizens with good-paying full-time jobs, and supports entrepreneurship. For that purpose, it's in that industrial category. But what we are aware of is that industry also requires residential housing, places for additional residential development. And so the opportunity to move this to R3 would allow some opportunities for duplexes and other uses that Mr. Gregg might want to place on that property. So that is the nature of the request. We don't have any kind of site plan in hand at this time, but he feels that with 7 acres, he can provide some other benefit to Burke County through a rezoning change. The planning board met on June 27th, 2024 to hear the rezoning request. A neighbor did come by to say they supported the change to residential, and after that, the board voted 6-0 to recommend approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you. I've got a few photos of the area, I think there. Let's see, that moved, oh, not quite, well. It's being wooded, it's going to be hard to see anything except trees there, so I can answer any questions for you if you like.
All right, thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, before I open the public hearing, any questions for Alan on this matter? Seeing none, at this time, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here tonight to speak to this matter. Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Now, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2024-14 as it related to ZMA 2024-05, a request to rezone 7.3 acres of land located at 1955 Jamestown Road, Morganton, North Carolina, and corresponding to PIN number 17724-19708 from industrial to residential R3 zoning district. The board finds that the rezoning to be consistent with the intent of the Blueprint Burke land use plan and the future land use map because of the mix of different zoning classifications for the area. The land use map shall be adjusted to residential infill. Furthermore, the board finds that the request is reasonable and in the public interest because, one, the subject property has access to public water and public road infrastructure, and two, the rezoning request is compatible with the residential character of the surrounding area.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Burns. Gentlemen, you've heard this motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. This brings us to item number 2 under public hearings, Community Development Zoning Map ZMA 2024-06. Again, presented by our Planning Director, Alan Glines. Alan?
Thank you again. This request is to rezone property owned by May River Properties, very close to Hildbrand, just on the other side of the interstate. And it's for to rezone 1.5 acres of land from R2 to industrial. This is an aerial of the factory located just to the south of this site. They have purchased that other land, and this is a container company called Contain. They operate North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and Texas. They need additional facility for shipping manufactured products for our area. Apparently, they've been working in this area since 1986 at that current location. So that is the property being requested in red, currently zoned R2. The current zoning map shows that area as residential now, and you can see the industrial property just to the south of that, and also in neighboring areas. So once again, this area right near the interstate happens to have a mix of zoning types that are not unusual here in Burke County. Sure that changes. Let's see. Would you be able to advance the screen, please? There we go. Future land use map, similar, in a similar format, with the manufacturing in place. Once again, that section 9 of the land use plan recommends opportunities for positive economic climate, encourages businesses to prosper, promote fair, flexible, and efficient manner for expansions. And this area is probably better suited for industrial uses there right off the interstate than expecting residential to happen right there on that interstate site. So the staff feel that rezoning this 1.5 acres is reasonable. The planning board met on June 27th. They were able to meet the plant owner, who also might be here tonight, and they voted in favor 6-0 to recommend approval of that zoning change. I can answer any questions for you if you have any. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, before I open the public hearing, any questions for Alan on this item? Hearing none.
I have one question. The pie shake that's in the corner there, who owns that?
It is a separate owner in the front there. It's a different company,
Oh,
and it's a different owner. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sometimes we try to clean, do a zoning cleanup and grab those properties that might be ill zoned, but that was a different owner on that one. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item tonight? Seeing, hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-15 as it relates to ZMA 2024-06. A request to rezone 1.5 acres of land located at 3846 Martin Fish Pond Street, 0 Dow Street, and 3835 Dow Street, Hickory, North Carolina, and the corresponding to PIN's number, Lot 1, 27725-18757, Lot 2, 27725-17843, and Lot number 3, 27725-17626 from residential to R2 zoning district to industrial IND district. The board finds that the rezoning to be consistent with the intent of the Blueprint Burke Land Use Plan, because expanding the business will create new jobs in an area with similar uses. The future land use map shall be adjusted to industrial. Furthermore, the board finds that the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the contained facility has existed at this location for 30-plus years and needs to expand. And furthermore, the zoning requirements and standards help to mitigate any potential impacts to the surrounding area.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burners. Gentlemen, you've heard this motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 5-0, Madam Clerk. This brings us to item number 3, under public hearings, zoning map amendment ZMA 2024-07, again presented by Alan Glines. Alan?
Thank you. Thank you all again. This is a request by Linda Orders, who owns property at 2274 US 70 Connolly Springs. Get that map going, there it goes. It's right across the road from the carp pond. Miss Orders has owned this property since probably 1987. It's had a number of businesses there. The current zoning is residential, and it's sort of a small structure that could look from a residential style, but it was missed from a zoning standpoint. So she's asking that it be zoned to general business. And part of the reason for that is she is seeking to sell the property, and the bank would like for the use to align with the zoning so there's no inconsistencies from the loan standpoint. And we're seeing that more often in the last few years where banks are coming through and they're asking for the underlying zoning to match the intended use. So we have more consistency there. But you can see the mix of the properties outlined in red. The big red track across the way is the Cart Pond, and our new Eastburg convenience site is just in the purple. That's mostly owned by the county right there. But there is a mix of different zoning types right in this corridor along I-70, Highway 70. The current zoning map is this one here. Future land use map is similar. And the future land use map shows this area for residential infill, anticipating that current use. But as part of this request, Mrs. Orders is requesting that it be moved to something more compatible with the actual use there, so it's all consistent. On major collector roads, there tends to be movement over time from residential uses to commercial and office uses, depending on that location and intersections and that sort of thing. The building on the subject property has been used for a business for a long time. It is currently non-conforming due to the current residential zoning for that tract. The planning board met on July 25th, 2024 to hear the request. Staff presented the report, and no one at the hearing, one person did speak. They lived across the street in a residential home and wondered about potential future changes there at the site. The site's pretty small, so there's not going to be likely very large changes if it was zoned commercial. It still has to fit the site. And there would be a site plan required and some small buffer, incorporated into the site plan should it change in the future. When the board opened for vote, they recommended approval 5-0. I can answer any questions for you.
All right, thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, any questions for Alan before I open the public hearing?
Alan, the piece of property between our new landfill property and that property, who owns that?
Miss Orders does. And so it's been used residentially over the years. There's a mobile home on it, and that's actually currently lived in.
Okay, so it's hers.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
Thank you.
All right, seeing that, this time I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Is there anyone here to speak to this matter tonight? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 2024-16 as related to ZMA 2024-07. A request to rezone .42 acre parcel of land located at 2274 US 70 Conley Springs, North Carolina, and corresponding to PIN number 27628700414 from a residential 2 zoning district to the general business zoning district. The board finds the rezoning to be consistent with the intent of the Blueprint Burke land use plan and the future land use map because of the mix of different zoning classifications for this area. The land use map shall be adjusted to general business. Furthermore, the board finds that the request is reasonable and in the public interest because, one, the Blueprint Burke future land use map promotes and supports general business and industrial land uses in this area, and two, since the business is an existing non-conforming use, rezoning the property to general business would bring the property into compliance with the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner Mulvey. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 5-0, Madam Clerk. This brings us to public hearing number 4 tonight. This is zoning map amendment ZMA 2024-08 in public hearing. Again, presented by Mr. Glines.
Thank you. Thank you all. The applicant, JBH LLC, owns property at 3046 North 18 US 64 Morganton, heading out of town. And the request is to rezone from general business to residential 3. There's on the map, heading north there. So this across the road is Snipe Street, and You might remember in the last year or so, we've been working in this area a fair bit. And we've had some industrial zone properties that had requested to go to residential use across the street and actually adjacent to this property just a little further away. So we're refining our zoning map is what we're doing with these requests. In this case, the owners of the property are trying to sell it. It's zone commercial. The person buying it wants to use it for residential purposes because there's a home on it. That is actually a single-family home and has never been anything else. Now, the strip through here has commercial zoning along both sides of it. And I think years ago, the intent was this might be a corridor that might convert to commercial uses, and this never did. So the new buyer would like for it to match up to the use, and so their bank is requesting that they make the swap to residential zone. This is the current zoning map, property outlined in blue, and Snipe Street is across the way. And this is the future land use map. So we've been adjusting that because a lot of that area was industrial before, now going to residential around that area. We've made adjustments right in this zone right here in the last year. And let me go back. For many of the same reasons, our future land use map does call for residential growth and trying to match up our zoning and keep the plan tight. And this should help with that. We are experiencing a housing shortage, and utilizing this land for its purpose would be consistent with the future land use map. The planning board met on June 27th to hear the rezoning request, and staff presented that report. I think two neighboring property owners spoke about the request. And one person was the realtor listing the property for sale. The other was potential buyers. So I don't know if they're here tonight. They were both supportive of that change, characteristically. The board voted in favor 5-0 to recommend approval. So I can answer any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. Any questions to Alan before I open the public hearing? Seeing here none, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here tonight to speak to this item? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2024-17 as it relates to ZMA 2024-08, a request to rezone .86 acres of land located at 3046 NC 18 and US 64, Morganton, North Carolina, and corresponding to PIN number 2716872387 from the general business zoning district to the residential R3 zoning district. The board finds the rezoning to be consistent with the intent of the Blueprint Burke land use plan and the future land use map because of the mix of different zoning classifications for this area. The land use map shall be adjusted to residential infill. Furthermore, the board finds that the request is reasonable and in the public interest because there is an existing dwelling on the property which is of non-conforming use, and rezoning the property to residential will bring the dwelling into compliance.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. This brings us to item number 5 under public hearings, Oak Hill Fire and Rescue Fire District annexation and scheduled public hearing. This will be presented tonight by Fire Marshal Mike Willis. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Oak Hill Fire and Rescue District received a petition from about occupants of about 38 different parcels off of Table Rock Mountain Road, encompassing some of that property that's just outside their current district. As a county, that falls under our Focus Area 3 to help expand our public safety and increase our capacities there. Correction, 39 parcels. So out of those 39, 26 signed the petition to be included, and the Oak Hill Board of Directors accepted that petition and voted unanimously to accept it on August the 6th. final approval for this is presented to you tonight for consideration. This is a statute, North Carolina General Statute, that identifies adding or removing parcels from a fire district. That's 6925.11. I don't think you want me to read all that to you. It's pretty cut and dried as to how it, what it says. The proposed area that they're looking at, that you have in front of you, the red indicates their current boundary, and what they're wanting to include is this in gold. So, and those residents, like I say, have petitioned and have brought this forward to them, and their boards accepted it. Oak Hill just finished their third station, and they're progressing well. Their rating is above most in the county, so we're proud of what they've done and look forward for them to continue to grow. This is a copy of their approval on August the 6th, and we're bringing this before you tonight for your consideration. Any questions?
All right.
Chief Winters is here if you've got specifics about the Oak Hill portion of it.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that presentation. Appreciate Chief Winters being with us tonight and all the work Oak Hill's doing. Gentlemen, any questions for the chief or for Mike before I open the public hearing? All right, seeing here none, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anyone here to speak tonight on this matter? Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the annexation of the said territory into the Oak Hill Fire District as requested by a 2/3 majority of the property owners and unanimous approval by the Board of Directors for Oak Hill Fire and Rescue Protection Association Incorporated pursuant to NCGS 69-25.11, in parentheses 1.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Smith. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. What's all those in favor? That is 5-0, Madam Clerk. This brings us to public hearing number 6, resolution concerning transition of administrative boards to advisory boards and scheduled public hearing. This will be presented tonight by our county manager, Mr. Brian Epling. Evening, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the board. Have a short presentation tonight to, I think, help work through an item that the Board of Commissioners have been working on for some time. So bear with me as I work through it. I'll start by informing, as all of you know, back in June, I met with both our public health director and our social services director to discuss a variety of operational updates. That meeting was a tick over 3 hours. We discussed a variety of options, including the implementation of the county's first ever pain classification study, and we'll talk about that just in a bit. We also talked about a building development program. As you all know, the building that our team has to work in over at the HRC on Parker Road is in disrepair and is in need of replacement, so I wanted to provide an update on that building as well. And then lastly, which is the item for consideration tonight, is the concept of a governance change to shift both boards, to maintain both boards, but that would shift them to an advisory nature. As you all know, since I've arrived a little over a year ago, at least from a professional staff perspective, inherited an organization that was in a little bit of discourse, some stagnation. We had about 33% turnover. The budget process was not tied to a Board of Commissioners strategic plan. Our capital improvement program wasn't tied to allocated resources. We lacked some vision, again, on the professional side, and we drafted worked through this 3-phase complex change model that we've been referring to systematically as React, Rebuild, Rethink. React was about stabilizing. Rebuilding was about beginning to implement best practices, talking about, again, the Board of Commissioners strategic plan and assigning resources. We always know that there are more goals and priorities than there are available resources, so we wanted to be very intentional and surgical in our resource allocation, zero-based budgeting. We wanted to talk about purpose and values. And now we've transitioned into this rethink phase of the plan, which is really all about continuous improvement. That's challenging traditional norms and asking ourselves, are there ways that we can increase efficiency, increase effectiveness, trying to magnify our impact for our purpose. That includes really a cultural shift organizationally. We've implemented several performance measurement tools to help us measure customer service, to help us measure our budget utilization, to help us measure strategic goal implementation. We want to move that to the department level as we move forward. We've also begun to really do some audits inside of our operational departments, ask if maybe we can leverage technology or refocus how we maybe cross-departmentally collaborate. Again, looking for ways to operate more efficiently. And I think part of that is what the board's asked us to evaluate, and that is organizational restructuring. So specific to that idea of restructuring, I've worked a lot with the School of Government, specifically Christy, and she has, in an email and several phone calls and video conferences, outlined that North Carolina General Statute really allows for public health and social services, which is about 30% of the county's employees. It's about 30 to 35% of our budget. It's areas that obviously have a lot of inherent risk, both legally, financially, and exposure. And so back in 2012, the General Assembly provided 3 specific methods. Now, inside of these methods, you can have varying options. So there's more than 3 ways to organize, but there's 3 fundamental ways, and let me explain what that means. Option A, which is what I'll talk more about this evening, really maintains 2 separate boards and transitions those boards, both on the social services and the public health side, to advisory. And the Board of Commissioners become the administrative functions for those areas. Items B and C, as you can see, both require full consolidation, and that was the major shift in 2012. So the idea of consolidation actually dissolves the boards, and it gives the Board of Commissioners the opportunity to either appoint one shared board or to serve as that board themselves, as long as they have the required public health membership and composition. So again, under those, both B and C, the reporting relationship for both directors goes to the county manager, and also, as you can see, in most counties across North Carolina, which this model has either B or C have been adopted, there's typically an assistant county manager that's the Health and Human Services Director, but again, reports to the county manager, to the Board of Commissioners. What we've began to explore and want to, are asking the board to consider this evening, on the spectrum, we're this traditional model, and I apologize that that's cut off, that's supposed to say traditional. We are here today on the total opposite end of the spectrum is complete consolidation. So that would be options B and C in Kristen's detail. What is being considered tonight is option A, which is transition to advisory board. And I point out that that is a step towards. There's no intention to be fully consolidated in Burke County. My understanding is that's what the board had been exploring all the way back in 2012. This option is a step towards consolidation, but there is no intent to be fully consolidated, because under this model, you do maintain completely autonomous separate boards, one for social services, one for public health. The public health board still has to follow the composition of North Carolina General Statute 138 with physician, pharmacy, and an engineer, and all of those required positions. Something else that was important is under option A, this transition to advisory board, there's absolutely no impact on our employees. So the employees that work in those departments enjoy privileges under the Office of State Human Resources, and a full consolidation model, they lose those rights. It's grievances, it's those type things. That goes to a commission in Raleigh and gives them some, again, privileges that other county employees don't necessarily experience. And under option A, they maintain that. So there's 2 separate boards with the same composition they have today and the same expertise. Both directors maintain their full statutory authority and responsibility and scope, and there's absolutely 0 impact on employees in either department. That's why we felt like that may be the option to review and ask the board to consider. And I'll point out that traditional model that we are operating under today has been in effect since really the origination of county government. So I think the statutes, and we'll talk about it in just in a minute, both of those are more than 100 years old. Doesn't mean that that's the way we've been operating, but since the organizational fruition of here in Burke County, that's the way that we've operated. In North Carolina, since 2012, when the law changed, 42 counties have moved away from the traditional model. Again, traditional being Administrative Board of Health, Administrative Social Services Board. So those 42 counties could have moved to any of option A, B, or C. Of the 42 who have moved away from the traditional model, 18 of those counties, roughly 43%, have had something similar where it's both social services and, again, the county commissioners acting as the Board of Health and appointing an advisory board. A little bit about the history of social services. Again, this statute was first adopted. It's governed by North Carolina General Statute 108A, and it was originally adopted in 1917. I would point out the model that all 100 counties use now. So every county in North Carolina follows the council manager form of government, which means that department heads report to the Board of Commissioners through the county manager's office. And that law wasn't created until 1927. So by default, unless you make this action, you fall under this more traditional model. So of the responsibilities that are statutory in 108A right now, the Social Services Board really has two compartments of responsibilities. On the administrative side, it includes selecting and appointing, and there's emphasis on the day-to-day supervision of the director, but I would summarize the administrative responsibilities as largely director supervision. On the policy side, as you can see, and these are all directly out of statute, they are intended to advise on social impacts, social community impacts and conditions. So things like food insecurities and poverty and homelessness and those type things that really seem to be drivers and social determinants in our community. Similarly, the Board of Health is created and governed by this 138 statute, which is a much more extensive statute than 108, and I think it's very well written. But it was adopted in 1901. It too was before the council manager form of government. And one thing that I just think is interesting, the rulemaking authority that was given to the Board of Health in this statute has, in recent history, largely been unnecessary because it was created before 1970, which was the creation of the EPA, so the federal regulatory agency. And North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, which was 1977. There we go. So again, for a local board to have rulemaking authority, it has to be something more stringent than federal or state law. And that doesn't happen as often as it used to prior to the creation of these agencies. So use COVID, for example, really a once in a lifetime, once in a generation terrible situation that we all went through. And all of the quarantine orders and all of the stay-at-home orders and all of the essential workforce orders, all of those were executed through executive orders in the governor's office, through the North Carolina State Department of Health and Human Services, and at the time, Secretary Cohen. So again, I think that leads to the critical importance of advisement based on science and expertise, but that rulemaking authority isn't as used as often as it used to be. Again, similar to social services, their role is broken down really in two compartments. One is largely director supervision, and the other is policy advisement on community impacts of health. So this could be teen smoking or obesity or chronic disease management or diabetic rate. It could be a variety of things, using their talents and their skill sets and their training to help advise on policy development that may benefit the community. So when I look at what the Board of County Commissioners are responsible for here on the left, statutorily, the Board of County Commissioners are responsible for all county personnel. They're responsible for the county budget, and they're responsible for all county-wide ordinances. And I think that when you evaluate that day-to-day supervision component that our Social Services Board and Board of Health are responsible for now, which includes things like personnel review, contract review, day-to-day supervision of administrative tasks, grant management, those type things, I think that it may fit more closely with the responsibilities that the Board of Commissioners have and the systems that are already in place to govern all the other departments in the county. As you can see, we have lots of other departments that are advisory to the Board of Commissioners in nature. Each of them have professional staff that work closely with them and leverage their area of expertise to make sure that the Board of Commissioners are given good, sound advice. I do think that transition could potentially increase efficiency, and being vertically aligned operationally, I think provides a better pathway for communication. I do think it moves us in a more prominent position for substantial equivalency, which you all know we've been working on for some time, and that is to make sure that both health and DSS employees, which are quasi, right? They're county employees, they get county benefits, they work in county buildings, they get paid by the county, but they also have heavy state functions, and they fall under the concept of the Office of State and Human Resources and their personnel policy. So substantial equivalency, I think, really gives us some more, more local input into position titles and positions, how they're graded and how they're paid. So I think that's a big deal. And then again, the idea that these departments have administratively evolved over time, that this may be something that the board wants to consider now. Areas of focus, if there were to be a transition, I'll focus quickly on human capital for our people, some potential performance enhancement areas, and then the building that we were talking about. And, you know, at the end of the day, I know that change can be a real challenge and there can be perceived loss, but I think the goal here is that we have an organization that has 20 to 25 operational departments, and the goal is to get everybody in the same boat, rowing in the same direction with shared goals so that we can make the biggest impact, serving our purpose, and do it in a uniform way. So currently, our communication structure looks similar to this, where we have the citizens of Burke County who elect the Board of Commissioners, the Register of Deeds, and the Sheriff. The Board of Commissioners then appoints these advisory boards who oversee these directors, and then with a dotted line reporting relationship back through administration for internal services, personnel, finance, and so forth. And really, I think this is the transition. We would still maintain a separate Board of Health. We would still maintain a separate DSS board with its same members and same terms. But the professional staff would fall into a system that's already in place that every other county employee and every other department in the entire organization report through. A little bit about both departments. The DSS department is about 199 employees. Currently has about a 12% turnover. It's about a $21.5 million budget. Roughly 36% of that comes from county dollars. The rest of it is federal and state. As you can see, in 2023, there's about a $5.5 million local investment into social services, and in 2025, it's about $2.2 million more. So a significant investment into social services over the last couple of years, and most of that's in people. On the public health side, it's about 50 employees. About 58% of the budget comes from local money, and a similar story. There's been certainly an area of priority placed on the important work that all of those professionals do. So quickly on the pay and class study, I talked about that earlier. As you're all aware, that's the first comprehensive pay and classification study in the history of Burke County. We consulted with an outside company that reviewed all 212 job descriptions in the county, implemented a new pay system, and then adjusted our employees to market. And the reason that the board endorsed that study is because in 2022, we had almost 200 turnover, or employee separations, meaning 200 employees said, I choose not to work here. That was about 33% turnover, which led to an organizational staffing model where almost a third of our staff had less than 2 years of experience. And we all know that with tenure and experience becomes performance and service delivery. So the good news is, over the last 2 years, last year we finished at 10%, and as we stand here today, we're at 7%. So 93% of the people who work here are choosing to stay. And in 911 and in EMS and social services and public health, I think that will make a difference over time. And we start to move our employees to the right on this chart so they have a little bit more experience and they've seen things more than one time. And I think that'll make us a better organization. The pay and class study spent about $3.25 million. Roughly 23% of that was in social services and public health. A few key positions there at the bottom that have been areas of priority since January 2023 have seen on average more than 25% pay increase. And I think that's meaningful and demonstrative of the level of investment that's needed, but we're not quite there. There continues to be a little bit higher turnover rate in social services than the rest of the organization, as well as in public health. And we've seen that trend sustained over a few budgets, and we really want to make sure that we're in a position to help understand and support so we can maintain that talent and, again, make the biggest impact on Burke County that we possibly can. A few areas of performance that I would point out, and it's, again, in an area of support and trust to try to, we've talked about it. I think that the paper may have covered it in Burke County. Unless the numbers changed in the last 30 days or so, there's about 14 foster parents in our entire county. That has an impact on our budget, has an impact on our foster children. We have, on average, typically around 200 kids that are in our care. And that is a real challenge. It's unproportionate to our population when we benchmark against other peers. So this idea of being on the same page, being vertically integrated, making sure that we're sharing resources and making sure that we're allocating resources in the way that makes the biggest impact, not only is about pay, but it's also about putting mechanisms in place that deliver results, because we can see that our time to permanency doesn't compare well, and it's been trending up over time. So we want to be able to help offer some ideas and work on that, which may include staffing, it may include resource justification, it may include a variety of things. But again, this concept of being in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, I think will help promote that type of culture and atmosphere. There's also an MOU that is required to be endorsed every 2 years, and it is between the state of North Carolina and Burke County government, which is the Board of Commissioners. And this is for the economic services function of DSS, which it provides performance metrics for timeliness of reporting and those type of things. So again, this idea that we are very unified in the work that we do, but we're very siloed in the way that we communicate and operate, I think that maybe suggests that we could be better under a different model. We also know that we're continuing to manage this roughly $24.5 million opioid settlement over the next 18 years. And even though that the subject matter expertise is largely located in our public health department, and I think they've done a phenomenal job, I'm really excited about some of the strategies that they're working through, and I know the Board of Commissioners supports that fully. But over the next 16 to 18 years, this is going to be an ongoing relationship, and the law literally requires every dollar that's spent to be reviewed and approved by the Board of Commissioners. So as I continue to talk through these amount of things that we're working on together, I hope that it demonstrates that, again, maybe there's some value in being on the same reporting wave. So from a building perspective, again, I'll be quick, but as a reminder, the county completed a comprehensive master facility plan in 2020 with Mosley Architects. They rated all of our buildings across 6 systems, and the HRC building, which was built originally in the late 70s, currently houses public health and DSS. It's about 65,000 square feet. There's about 250 employees between the two departments. Currently, we still, because of space limitations, we have employees working remotely. We also have adult protective services that are fixing to be compartmentalized across the street here. And we had a real question of, if we were to build a new building, how big should it be? Commercial construction, we know, is about $400, $450 a square foot. So every square foot you build matters. We've conducted this space planning analysis, which said that we need about 90,000 square feet. We've then put that to an architect to do cost estimate. They told us new construction would be about $45 million. If we wanted to renovate the existing building and add the needed square footage to that, it's about $29.5 million. And we're currently working through an option 3, which may be to better utilize an existing county asset that's underutilized, and that is Foothills Higher Education Center. There's about roughly 68 parking places there, 117,000 square feet, and we're still in the development mode for that. The reason that I share that is, again, to show over the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be this continued requirement for close nitty-gritty working together that has really big impacts and really big outcomes tied to it. And I think when you start talking about building a $20+ million building, that's important. So quickly on the process, the statutes that allow the board to consider this, or 153A76, 153A77, which basically says that the Board of Commissioners can organize government and assume responsibilities and powers for commissions that they appoint. To do that, both for the Social Services Board and the Public Health Board, it requires setting a public hearing, which has happened, conducting a public hearing, which will happen momentarily, and then considering a resolution. The statutes do not speak to the requirement for an advisory board in social services, although I think it's a best practice. It does speak to the requirement for a public health advisory board, because you have to, again, have the same composition of physician, pharmacist, engineer, optometrist. All of those positions that are statutory are still required. And the North Carolina Administrative Code, Chapter 10A, allows for this board to delegate most of what is responsible for today, including the community health assessment and most of the accreditation requirements, not all of them. There are still a few things each year this Board of Commissioners would have to do as the acting and sitting Board of Health if this were to be considered and approved. But the vast majority could be reassigned to that board. And really, at the end of the day, I think what you are left with in practice, as a matter of day-to-day practice, is supervision for the department heads falls to the Board of Commissioners through the county manager's office, like every other department, and we end up with two independent boards that still maintain their autonomy and their expertise, and they're able to advise the Board of Commissioners as you wish. Mr. Chairman, I know that's a lot, and I'm happy to answer any questions you, the board, may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. We've been discussing it for quite some time. Any questions to Brian before I open the public hearing?
Brian, as we have moved forward in the last couple of years, we brought in an in-house grant writer, as you know. That's becoming a lot bigger part of our budget because we're trying to diversify away from property tax. And that's been, we've been very successful with that. Tell us the challenges because the way it's set up now, we have an outstanding grant right now through the health department, correct? That may not be completely fulfilled.
Yeah, so I would say similar to the opioid settlement dollars, when you have the subject matter expertise and the technical scientific expertise in one department, but required to be reported through finance and the strategy, and I think what you're talking about is to make sure that we're fully utilizing each of those opportunities. It does, I think, have a more impactful outcome when there's jurisdictional or multi-departmental impact and input into those grant situations. So maybe there's, for example, maybe there's grants that can help advance priorities in other areas that if we're looking broader, we can capitalize on versus just, maybe looking inside of our own singular department. So I think, like all things, grant administration can be done better when it's collaboratively. And I think that as you said, as we move towards this idea of trying to look for outside funding, the grant writer being in the finance office, the procurement compliance components being required there, and then also understanding that other parts of the commissioner's strategic plan may be able to be funded, outside of certain grant areas is something we should be considering. So I hope that answers your question, but yes, I think that we can be more, we can better utilize available resources if everyone is communicating and sharing information.
So when they receive a grant that's not used and it expires, what does the county have to do with that money?
If it's a drawdown based grant, the grant, we just don't get it. And if it's been fronted, then the money would be sent back. Depends on the type. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing no further questions from the commission, this time I'll open the public hearing, and we have a number of speakers who have already registered to speak, so I'm going to recognize those that I have here before me. First, I'll call on Isaac Crouch. Mr. Crouch.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Excuse me. So, yeah, I guess I want to start by mentioning not too long ago the time that, well, it was in early 2023, the time our Board of Health did our last strategic planning session. We met all together with the entire board, the department heads. Johnny was there as our commissioner member on the Board of Health. And we had additionally almost the same amount of people within the community, leaders of nonprofits that intersect with the work of the health department. All was there. We spent 3 days in constant conversation and collaboration to come up with our strategic plan, our vision, our goals, based on what's actually happening and what's the people that are on the ground in Burke County dealing with public health issues, not just in our department, but setting those values and our goals for the next 4 to 5 years. And part of what came out of that is, and just in general, the work and the approach that our director, Danny Solis, takes to his job is a number of community partnerships, Burke Wellness Initiative, Adult Treatment Court, Community Caring North Carolina, Burke Substance Abuse Network, Burke County NAACP, Western Piedmont Council of Government, School of Science and Math, UNC Health, Blue Ridge. There's more, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think if you look at what we've been doing for the past couple of years, it's very clear that we are very interested in collaboration and communication. And so it's not clear to me, I guess, why, if there are certain issues that are happening that we aren't aware of, why we haven't been consulted in this. I think we have every indication for you to believe that we would listen to these concerns and we would work with Brian, work with y'all to accomplish these goals. I just want to clarify one thing, and I think this gets to the heart of the concerns that me and others have, is there's been a little bit of the use of the words Board of Health and what an advisory board and advisory committee, all that has been a little bit mixed together, but I want to point out what's in your packet today and for the public, that the Board of Commissioners will become the Burke County Board of Health. And that's the same for the Board of Social Services. When it comes to the Board of Health, that means that they assume responsibilities, number one, to protect and promote the public health and the authority to adopt the rules necessary for that purpose, two, to appoint the local health director, and three, the power to direct the health director in his or her administration of local health programs. So I guess I would ask each of you, should you decide to do this, to look at our strategic plan and look at our goals and look at the work we've done over the years to build relationships in the community, look at the actual positive outcomes that have been seen, such as, the child mortality is going down, life expectancy on the rise, HIV, hepatitis A, we're leading the state in how much we fought that and got those numbers down. We're one of only 2 county health departments in the state to receive a national accreditation, which is an optional thing, and that's on top of our state-required state accreditation. Thank you. Otherwise, we've become a national leader in, efforts against substance abuse disorder with our various programs that we've initiated. Local governments in North Carolina and nationwide often seek our help on those. Our staff and the department as a whole is often recognized, has been recognized with awards and by the public health community. They're invited to serve on committees, participate in certification programs, provide advice to other health departments, speak at conferences, and submit papers on their work to medical journals. So I guess that's, in general, that is where I think I and the Board of Health is coming from in terms of, requesting a more comprehensive study on this. If you look at, there were 3 options, A, B, C on the board. Well, I guess option 0 would be you can leave things as they are. And in which case, you know, I'll move on. But in general, that leaves out the other, I guess if there's the way things are, which is one model, and then 3 others, there are actually 4 others that are available to you. I'm pulling up this study from the North Carolina Medical Journal that looks at local health departments and the outcomes seen by each organizational structure. And I hope you have a chance to look at this if you haven't already. Appendix 1.1 has the list of the 8 different models of health departments that you can do in terms of the health. I'm not as familiar with the social services, but for the county, you know, a separate health department, which is what we have, and appointed board of health, which is what we have. We are one of 48 in the state, so almost half the state has decided to stick with this model. For an individual health department with commissioner boards of health, there are only 4 that have been recognized by the study. So I don't think I can really sum it up any better than has been said by that study as far as the concerns go. You know, it says, taking together our findings on the effects of commissioner-controlled boards of health suggests that with the loss of an appointed board of health, which is what we have now, composed of medical professionals who are strictly concerned with overseeing and guiding the local health department becomes structurally less concerned with and less empowered to respond to public health needs in the community. So there's clear research data available to you showing the potential negative impacts of that. I would hope that, you know, that in your decision, you would consider that data. You would reach out to those counties. You would you know, see what's going on here and investigate what is the best path forward for Burke County. In that same study, it was found, you know, many others have fear of or concern of the influence of politics on public health and decisions that should be left to doctors, nurses, public health professionals. And this study found that the fears that similar fears that other people had were largely confirmed within the results of this study by other commissioner-controlled or counties that had commissioner-controlled boards of health. So I think there's more than reason to take into account a pause on this decision and more study be done. And you know, I think that those fears really go back to those when the Board of Commissioners becomes the Board of Health, they then have the authority to direct the programs of the health department through the directors. So I'm going to give you 2 things today. One is the annual report, which goes into detail of what the department has done, its accomplishments, its goals, how it has taken the strategic goals of the Board of Health and implemented those and the positive things that it's seen, in the hopes that when you do have the power, if you choose to pass this, that those programs will be allowed to continue and the work that's being done will be allowed to continue. And then secondly, I am going to give you the resolution that was passed by the Board of Health. So that'll be right inside. And that is just an official request from the Board of Health to study those other models before you make a decision. So if, I'll hand those out. If that's all right. Is it okay for me to walk up? I'm not going to get arrested or anything. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crouch. Appreciate your comments tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Next is I'm going to ask you to refrain from all the applause at this time. We've got a lot of public comment tonight, and we'd like to move things along and not keep you here all night. So if you will, please refrain from applause between speakers, and I'll call on Sherry McGimpsey. Sherry, if you'll come, please.
Hello. Hi, I know I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do have questions. My analytical husband gave me all the regional approach of the public district health models to look at. Eddie also told me that the health department in our state represents a huge chunk of money in every county. Brian, thank you for our conversation yesterday. You also are analytical, and I do, however, disagree with you on some items. Our county has had 12 years to make this change, so why now? The Burke County Health Department is not broken, and I feel it is doing a great work for Burke County. One, the health department has a lot of expertise. 2 doctors, a nurse, a dentist, engineer, a commissioner, and citizen members. 2, we're one of 2 county health departments in North Carolina that has national accreditation. 3, they have won awards and have been recognized nationally. 4, if there is a board of health without a say, politics may get in the way of public health, and Burke County certainly does not need a power struggle when we have so many challenges with health problems. We've been there at our health department and sat patiently to get the services for our beautiful mind. It's worth the wait when you're asking for help. I understand the importance of having a knowledge and active board. Our Brighter House board has provided knowledge and expertise guiding us to be licensed by the state to provide a rehabilitation daily service for people suffering from serious mental illness. Our model is based on an original Fountain House founded in 1948, 76 years of success, and we are following a successful model and will achieve accreditation from CARF, which is federal, and the Clubhouse International. Why invent the wheel? We got in line for a required inspection from the health department before we could open. Maybe it wasn't as fast as we would have liked, but the folks who came on the day scheduled were polite, knowledgeable, and guided us, so our final inspection received the final approval, which also met the state requirements. God bless them all, and I thank them all for that. Danny Scalise was one of the first to come and offer his support to Brighter House and understand the services needed for families like ours. I will always be grateful for his support and encouragement and of providing his guidance. Danny cares and has been meeting the county health needs. He is a valuable asset to Burke County. I certainly trust his knowledge on understanding the operational effectiveness of the Burke County Health Department. And that's a mother's prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Call on Rob Nelson at this time.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Rob Nelson, and you may be aware that I wrote a letter to the editor that was published in both of our local papers. And so I'm clearly against making any changes. But what I really like to speak to is the process that we're undergoing here. This is, if you make a vote tonight to move forward with this change, you will have given the very bare minimum amount of time for the public to consider this. The state law requires you to provide 30 days. I believe we're getting 31 days in order to inform ourselves of what is happening and understanding this very complex situation. And I have tried very diligently to understand the ins and outs as a citizen, and you know, granted, I'm no expert on these things, but I can learn, and you have given us no time to learn. This, quite frankly, if you decide to move forward today, it seems insane. Not only both boards have passed resolutions calling for more time to do this. Everyone, the paper, everyone who has spoken publicly about this has advocated for more time to discuss this. Brian's presentation included information that has not been given to the public at all. There has been no detailed discussion about the 8 different models that are available to us to choose from. For the very first time that I'm aware of, and I attended virtually the Board of Health meeting, that was not in the presentation. I would have had a chance to educate myself about that if that had been in the presentation, but it was not. This is the first time anyone has talked about why we're going, and you're going to vote on it today, why we're picking one particular out of 8. I'm flabbergasted. This is a community, when I moved here years ago, I had the impression that this was a county where people valued transparency and public inclusiveness, civic engagement. If you make this decision tonight, what will people think? Seriously, what will people think? I mean, how could people not think that all along you weren't going to listen to anybody? That I don't see how the community could rise up any more in opposition to this than what we have done. All the people involved that have any interest in either social services or the health department have said, geez, we don't think this is a good idea. And we're going to have essentially no public discussion about that, and you're just going to vote it through? That just, frankly, that would just be wrong. So I appeal to you to delay for at least 1 month the vote on this decision. I could go into much more detail about Brian's presentation and the 42 counties. Frankly, 42 counties have considered changes. Only 38% have moved to what's being proposed here. So what I would say is that we're picking a minority decision. But this isn't, I don't have time to go into all that detail. We need more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Artie McKesson Logan.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am Artie McKesson Logan of 445 North College Street here in Morganton. I am a retired state employee of 30 years, having worked at Broughton Hospital. Worked as a psychotherapist and evaluator for the Department of Social Services for 3 years and served in a private practice. I am also certified as a conflict resolutionist and serves as a court mediator. I am licensed in these areas that I feel that are important, those such as a psychotherapist and as the clinical social worker, which falls within these human services and the services that are provided. I did graduate from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and did advanced studies. I say this to qualify my concern in areas that I have expertise and compassion for. I think the focus that concerns me is the terminology of advisor versus administration, and why there is a need to change or alter the current model being used. I have always worked under the multi-discipline model and found it to be quite productive and effective. However, the problem surfaced when the legal system had the final say, and I'm speaking of Broughton Hospital. Patients were assessed, evaluated, stabilized, and treatment plans were generated. However, within 7 to 10 days, the recommendations were made. And this was a recommendation whether the patient needed continued inpatient therapy or discharge. Needless to say, that decision was made by a judge who had no awareness of the patient and his behaviors, nor the formal clinical psychiatric training. resulting in a high rate of recidivism, which was not cost-effective and would limit the number of admissions being needed immediate inpatient treatment. In my opinion, professionals should evaluate and make the final decision. I believe the recommended model would give the professionals the task of advising, and the commissioners would be administrators. My understanding is, and I may be wrong, and I would like to be corrected, the bottom line or decision would rest with the commissioners, a responsibility that you are not qualified to assume. Has anyone done an evidence-based study specific to Burke County and taken into consideration the external factors such as demographics? Where is the evidence supporting that this model is going to be more effective than the current model for Burke County? I think we become high risk and liable when we're not qualified to make the final decisions dealing with the necessities to sustain one's well-being. We are dealing with human lives and not this ugly, divisive thing we call politics. As a young student in Chapel Hill, I was given training in MBO, which was called Management by Objective. Commissioners, I ask you to question the question, what is the objective and how does it differ from the current objective? It is not to if it is not to improve and protect the lives of our consumers, then any other answer is the wrong answer. I think I'm qualified to speak on Burke County issues. As the record will show, I've served on over 30 boards, committees, commissions, and foundations over the past 40 years. I'm asking you to delay a ruling on changing the current model until a thorough feasibility study has been submitted by professional providers. And I ask that you please save a seat for me at that table. Thank you for all you do for this county.
Thank you, Ms. Logan. Allison Calloway.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Like a lot of folks, I'm concerned about the power grab of control of this board over the health department. It doesn't sound like it needs fixing or micromanaging, and the idea of being united as a department, as a community, as all employees within the government of the county. And that's just kind of a general statement that doesn't really have any meaning. If you had a specific goal to do a better job than what they're already doing, why fix something that isn't really broken? There's not a lot of lawsuits or public outcry or people complaining to you. You haven't said, well, I got 70 calls this month from people complaining they couldn't get XYZ at the health department. So that is, again, like Rob, we don't understand. You haven't given us enough time to absorb. You haven't communicated to us, the public, what it is you want to accomplish. in reading all the information about the county and your mission statement that you as a board put forth was, keeping a balanced budget, and you all are doing a great job of that, it seems to me. We've got a credit score of like, what is it, A, big A, little a, and, that's great. You're doing a great job. Keep doing that. But the one thing that stood out, that the only way to increase the county's credit score so that we can go out and borrow more money at a cheaper rate is to raise the median income in this county. And you really have been trying to get better jobs, better industries to come in and help us do that. And looking at the median income and the poverty level of the county, I can't remember all the statistics, but it's around like 25% of children in the county are in a poverty environment. And so they are the ones going to the health department. They are the ones going to social services. They are the ones who are trying to help. But if you look at the wages, and you all have raised the wages of the teachers and of your county employees, but they still aren't quite enough. Why not be more helpful to the employees that are already working? You have something like 2,000 employees if you count teachers, the school system, with the things that you already have control over with the money, with your checkbook. And by increasing the base pay for any employee up to at least what the federal government says, a single person needs to earn $37,000+ a year. And I know there are a lot of jobs in this county that don't pay that. But the employees that you affect, that you have control over, are the guy that's working for you all. The people that clean this room, the people that mow and keep all the buildings painted and presentable. All those people you can affect by giving them raises. Another thing that I see that you would have some concern over is trauma. The officers that got to that man and saved his life with his arm cut off, that person there, those two officers were in a traumatic situation, and they handled it very, very well. And the turnover that you're seeing in the health department and social services is very high. It is a very stressful job, just like our police officers, our EMT, emergency staff. They need a in-house therapist like, tell me your name again. Artie. It would make the mental health of your workers here in the county feel like you all cared about them, their mental health. And when somebody has good mental health, they can do a better job. There's less calling in sick. There's less drug and other abuses that a lot of people turn to when they're stressed. So if you could find it in the budget to be proactive, give teachers in schools, the health department, social services only get about, on average, they say about 30% of the folks that really need it. So 2/3 of the people that really need the mental health services and the food and the education and all those services, they are not able to reach the people they need to. And I guess my time is up, but thank you for listening, and please give us some more time and give yourselves some more time.
Thank you, Mr. Callaway. Dr. Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Dr. Anthony Frank, and speaking to you tonight as the physician-appointed member and vice chair of the current Board of Health. Respectfully, I've served as a volunteer member and vice chair on the Board of Health for over 5 years through 2 public health directors and a pandemic. We have commissioner representation on the Board of Health, and no indications were given during my time on the board that concerns existed for the job being done by the current board. There has been much discussion around this topic. We are still left with the question of what problems are the Board of Commissioners trying to solve with this proposed change of governance. Burke County has a high-performing health department and is recognized as a leader in the state with its initiatives. At the end of the day, the Board of Commissioners can continue to appoint a Board of Health free from political influence of medical and health decisions in our county, as in the current model, or make this change and become the Board of Health and balance the community's health decisions with the influence of re-election. Examples of these decisions for the community would include masking and vaccination policy, as in the recent pandemic. The current Board of Health at its most recent meeting made a unanimous recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for additional due diligence and a study of the options for this proposed change and the impact that this may have on the citizens of the county. The Board of Commissioners should strongly consider this recommendation from the existing Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frank. Paul Carson.
I'm Pastor Paul Carlson of 119 North King Street, Morganton, North Carolina. I care deeply for my community, and in that care for my neighbors, I often find myself in conversation about politics. And especially as a pastor, I have to find myself in conversations and sometimes even debate about where politics should be and where it shouldn't. There are many strong opinions about that topic, but one place I think we should all agree on is that politics, especially partisan politics, has no business in public health. I never want a political party making decisions for my health, my family's health, or my community's health. We should all be able to see how quickly that can go wrong. I've heard politicians say some really weird things. We need our Board of Health to stay outside of politics. When it comes to health, we need medical professionals, people who have been trained, licensed, and made careers around providing good medicine for their communities. Not for the sake of some election or partisan talking points, but for the sake of their neighbor. And when it comes to medicine, everyone knows that good medicine never tastes good. This is why I implore you to keep the Board of Health, a nonpartisan, non-political agency, free to give that good medicine for the sake of all, no matter how bad it might taste or how hard it might be for a political party to swallow. We need it. For the health of every single one of our neighbors, the Board of Health needs to stay free of political oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Leslie Kern.
Thank you. I have heard and read many good things about our county manager, Mr. Epley. So I was shocked to read that he is in favor of giving control of Burke County health decisions to the county commissioners, rather than making decisions through the lenses of commissioners as well as health professionals such as doctors, nurses, public health leaders, dentists, social service representatives, engineers, and citizens. Mr. Epley, as he said tonight, says that he wants to make sure we are all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. But common sense predicts this power shift will instead make sure we are all going in the direction determined by the county commissioners without the use of facts known by professionals who are in touch with the circumstances of all the citizens of Burke County. He says the Board of Health and Board of Social Services can, quote, meet the needs of citizens better if we are all tightly knit together, unquote. But his plan would make sure that professional knowledge and expertise and experience is subservient to the political leanings and desires of county commissioners. There would be no knitting together. Mr. Epley says under his plan, quote, nothing should change, end quote. I do not believe him. My daddy used to say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And the fact that we have gotten national recognition means that we're doing something right.
Thank you, Ms. Kern. Mary Charlotte.
Good evening, gentlemen. Actually, the prior speakers have done such a wonderful job expressing the concerns that I have. I will actually be fairly brief. And I just want to say that right now we have a health department and a social services department that provide excellent care and services to our community. But I just want to remind you, a large part of the work they do is for our children, the most important, vulnerable, needy population that we have in our county. And to me, what happens to children is the most important thing that I do and that you do. So we have departments that are already providing excellent care to these children, whether it's mental, physical health, assessment and development help, whether it's literally protection, because we do have some children that live in horrible homes, and it is the Department of Social Services that investigates and finds solutions, and often that sometimes means removing the children, at least temporarily. These two departments save children's lives. So why would we mess with what we have in place? And it's been said beautifully by these other speakers, basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because all these other things are not worth risking that some child in our community does not get the help that they need. So I please ask that you consider that. They're the most important thing that we have here, and we have to take care of them. Thank you.
Ms. Charlotte. Richard Owensby.
I want to thank the commissioners for hosting this meeting and the great turnout we've got from the public. The main thing I want to ask from the commissioners is, I don't know if you came in here tonight, your mind made up, I'm going to vote this way, and we're all wasting our time. But I want you to consider what everybody's saying here and give us some time. Give us some time to work this thing out. As part of disclosure, I had served 2 terms on the Board of Health back in the 1990s, 1 term on the Planning Board, so I had both advisory and administrative experience with county boards. I know when we were on the county board back in the 90s, we were getting paid a small amount for each meeting we had, and the county was in a budget crunch, and we voted unanimously to forego pay, and I think that's what the Board of Health has always done since then. And you're looking at a lot of highly educated, highly professional people on that board, and their time's worth a lot of money, but they're more concerned about the health of Burke County citizens. So they're volunteering their time without compensation. They've got a lot of expertise, and I think that's invaluable. I know that it's said that if the current boards, if this proposal goes through, the current boards will be dissolved, and at that point, the present members will be asked if they want to come back to the board. I don't know that they're going to be real happy to come back. I don't know if everybody's going to come back, but if the boards are basically understaffed, how long is it going to take to replace that? Heaven forbid we have another health emergency in that time, and we basically have no advisory health board. You know, what kind of situations our county going to be in? I know we keep hearing the justification for the changes that we all need to be rowing in the same direction. I'd like to know if there's an instance where some people are pulling right, some people are pulling left, and the vote's going round and round, and that's why we need to fix things. I just haven't heard that. I'm a little concerned about the control of the opioid settlement money. Not that involved with that, but that's something this county really needs. We need a lot of rehab in this county. And I'm hoping that's not something that becomes a political football. It's said that there's been lots of studies done for years about these changes. I'd like to know if there's some studies y'all have done that you could put on paper so we could look at. And meetings you've done, I bet those all have been done in accordance with state open meeting laws. I did find a study from the UNC School of Government about these changes, and I think it said there's only 4 counties that have exactly what we're looking at doing, and 2 of those 4 counties have fewer than 20,000 people population. So I don't know how well that applies to Burke County. And I'd just like to ask, what's the rush? What's going to happen to the county if we don't do this tonight? What if we put it off for 6 months or a year and continue to study it? Are we going to be in a terrible situation if we don't rush to fix something that doesn't really seem to be a problem? Can we go to those counties that have made a similar change to this and talk present and former commissioners, present and former board members, and find out how pleased they are with the changes? And that's all I have to say. But in closing, I'll say what everybody else is saying. If it ain't fixed, why? If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Mr. Osby, Mary Charlotte Safford. Okay. All right, I think that's all the names that I have. Anyone else speak to this matter? All right. Start right here.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Dr. Jonathan Brisson, and I have the privilege of serving our community as an internal medicine physician. I'm here today not just as a doctor, but as a concerned member of our community to speak about the vital importance of preserving the independence and integrity of our Board of Health. As a physician, my primary responsibility is to the health and well-being of my patients. I've dedicated years to understanding the complexities of human health, and I work tirelessly to provide evidence-based care that is rooted in science. The same principles that guide my practice should guide our public health decisions. An independent Board of Health is essential for making informed, unbiased decisions that prioritize the health and safety of our community. The current board, composed of individuals with the expertise, experience, and knowledge necessary to understand the intricate issues that affect public health, serves as a crucial barrier between health policy and political influence. Its decisions are based on data, research, and the best available evidence, not on the shifting winds of political agendas. I am deeply concerned by the Commission's proposal to restructure the Board of Health, robbing the board of their autonomy and administrative independence. This is a thinly veiled consolidation of power by a partisan commission without health expertise. Such a move would compromise the quality of health decisions made for our community, placing political considerations above the well-being of our citizens. Public health is not and should never be a partisan issue. It is about protecting lives, preventing disease, and promoting a healthier future for all of us. We have seen, especially in recent years, the devastating consequences when health decisions are swayed by politics rather than guided by science. Our community needs leaders who will prioritize health over politics, who will listen to experts, and who will ensure that our public health system remains robust, independent, and focused on the common good. Dissolving our independent Board of Health would be a step backward. It would erode public trust, diminish the quality of our health policies, and ultimately, it would put lives at risk. I urge you to reconsider the long-term impact of such a decision, not just on this community, but on the legacy you will leave as leaders. I ask you to stand with us, physicians, nurses, pharmacists, public health experts, and concerned citizens in preserving the independence of our Board of Health. Let's keep the focus where it belongs, on the health and well-being of the people we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jessie Stout, and I'm a pharmacist. I was asked to join the Board of Health at the end of 2022. While this may not seem like a long time, a lot of experience on the board, I do have almost decades of experience in healthcare. And as my dad, Richard, stated, I certainly do not do this for the money. I volunteer my time because I'm passionate about the health and well-being of the community where I was raised. I am proud to serve on this board because I believe in Danny and his staff and the amazing impact they have had on our community. My opinion on this matter is nothing against you all as commissioners, and as I'm sure you all do an excellent job on what you do on a daily basis. But I truly believe decisions that impact healthcare should be made by those who live and breathe healthcare on a daily basis. It is impossible to understand the impact of these decisions on patients if you are not in a position where you interact with patients. It is also challenging to fully understand the always evolving healthcare landscape without being a healthcare provider. Therefore, I strongly believe that the decisions that impact the health of those in Burke County should be guided directly by the current Board of Health as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Wood. I live at 502 Willowbrook Drive in Morganton, and I am a social services board member for the past 4 years. I have a bachelor's and master's degrees in social work and have about 25 years worth of experience as a social worker. A small portion of that has been as a direct employee of a Department of Social Services, but in the remaining years, I have worked with families who have utilized services as an advocate and a referral source. I bring this level of experience to my position on the Social Services Board, as do the other board members. They bring similar experiences. They understand the work that DSS does, both from a worker perspective and from a program recipient and a recipient advocate perspective. We are an engaged board who cares for our community. Speaking as an individual and using a leadership lens, I understand the reasons you have shared for wanting to change the governance of the Social Services Board, and I appreciate that you have noted in your proposal that you want to create an advisory board even though you aren't required by law to do so, because you don't want to dispense with the knowledge and resources that are embodied in the current board. However, I feel disappointed that this expertise was not acknowledged by engaging others during your reportedly lengthy discussions on changing the governance of the Social Services Board and the Board of Health over the course of many years. I feel that eroded trust among the key players, yet it's not too late to remedy that. The proposed change is really not as common as has been suggested. There are 27 counties that have Board of County Commissioner governance, and 16 of those are consolidated. 11 of those are DSSs that are governed by the Board of Commissioners, and 4, as Isaac mentioned, are health departments that are governed. It's not as common. So I ask that you do not vote in favor of this resolution, and you allow the key players to engage in meaningful conversation and planning so that we can all truly row the boat in the same direction, rather than neglecting to have enough oars on board. Today, during the Social Services Board meeting, which was just this morning, the board approved a resolution with only one nay. I will read it now. A resolution seeking the collaborative approach to assess the governance, organization, operations, and effectiveness of the Burke County Departments of Social Services and Public Health. Whereas the Burke County Board of Commissioners has on its August 20th, 2024 agenda a resolution concerning the transition of administrative boards to advisory boards in a related public hearing, and whereas effective change management principles emphasize the importance of inclusive decision-making, stakeholder engagement, and gradual implementation, and whereas there's been a lack of meaningful consultation with the Departments of Social Services and Public Health Boards, leadership, employees, and clients who are knowledgeable about the unique needs and challenges of the populations they serve, whereas the rapid and unilateral nature of the decision-making process has created an environment of uncertainty and anxiety, and whereas the accelerated timeline and absence of proper stakeholder input diminishes the opportunity to fully assess potential unintended consequences of this restructuring, leading to decisions that could exacerbate rather than alleviate existing challenges. Whereas incorporating safety, collaboration, and voice will more effectively serve the community. And whereas the focus on rapid change rather than thoughtful transition, engaging all parties, reflects a pattern that is inconsistent with best practices in both governance and human services management, raising serious concerns about the long-term impact on community welfare. Now therefore be it resolved by the Burke County Board of Social Services that the Burke County Board of Commissioners is requested to refrain from approving resolution number 2024-17 at its August 20th, 2024 meeting. The Burke County Board of Commissioners is requested to engage with the Boards of Social Services and Public Health, along with the respective directors and county manager, over a 60-day period to develop a collaborative and transparent approach to assess the governance, organization, operations, and effectiveness of these departments. The Burke County Board of Commissioners, along with the Boards of Social Services and Public Health, the respective directors and county manager, are asked to engage in this collaborative approach in good faith and to support and implement the findings and conclusions reached through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Anyone else speak? Yes.
Gentlemen of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the room, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My question is one that I don't believe I've heard worded in this exact verbiage.
Please state your name, please.
My name is Jonathan Poteet. I'm a lifelong resident of Burke County. My question mainly is, how do the citizens of Burke County, the taxpayers, directly benefit from an expansion of the county's government? It just doesn't make sense to me why the county should be in charge of the public health. It should be left to third party, impartial. And gentlemen, take this as no attack on any one of you, not personally. But I speak for myself. I don't know how many people in this room I speak for when I say this, but I do not trust any of you to be able to remain impartial in your decisions if this resolution is passed. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else speak to this? Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity, commissioners and community. My name is Laura Grattan, and I'm a family physician here in Morganton. I live on Pearson Drive. We moved here from the West Coast. I am very proud of this community. We plan to stay here. My children are here. We go to school here. I love this community. I was part of a health department on the West Coast when I was there, and I sought to become part of the health department here. Thank you for appointing me a few years ago as commissioners. I'm in private practice here full-time. Our group has 11 physicians. 10 of us live in Burke County. Not everybody can say that about their small communities. Several other physicians were previously on the Board of Health. We've had discussions about this informally in our clinic, and they're just concerned that this decision is being made very quickly. And so this is my life's work. I urge you to delay the decision until we've been able to, as a community, understand the reasons behind this, and so we can come together for the health of our community, our children, and one another. Thank you.
Anyone else speak to this issue? All right, seeing here no others to speak, I'll close the public hearing at this time. And just before I open the floor for a motion from the board, I want to make just a comment or two on behalf of the board, and first of all say that this board is very appreciative to the work that has gone on with the Board of Health and the Board of Social Services. And the consideration of this item is in no way an indication of a dissatisfaction to any of that work. That work has been great, and we are very much appreciative of that and support it 100% in everything that has been mentioned here tonight as the work of those professionals. As this proposal is considered, I would remind you it's part of the resolution that those boards would be immediately set back tonight in their advisory capacity. So there would be no time frame that would be left unmanaged or uncovered if this goes forward tonight. So with those things said, I think I had one other item I wanted to mention. Ms. Logan mentioned in her comment that if there was any other reason than doing things better, then we shouldn't do it. And I appreciate that, and I would simply say that that's the only reason this board would consider making any change like this, because we do believe that perhaps there are better outcomes, better things that we could do if we worked more closely together. So that's certainly the objective. There's no objective to not do better. We think both departments are doing great work, but we think we might do things better. So that's the reason we've considered these other options tonight. So with those comments, I will open the board for any comments before we take a motion. Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion, we adopt resolution 2024-17.
Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. What's the pleasure of the board? All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. And those opposed? Madam Clerk, that's 4-1.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a statement.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I want to read from the paper, or excuse me, an editorial in the paper. It says that this year's primary election voters decided that they did not trust the two outgoing commissioners with the future of our county. Making a long-term decision during the lame duck session does not respect the will of the people and bypasses the input. Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not a darn lame duck commissioner. I've been on this board for 13 years. And I've done everything that I thought was right for the people of this community, and that's what I'm doing now. And some people have not fulfilled their leadership capacity. This didn't have to come to where it is today. It bothers me to no end, as I sit here and listen to some people condemn us, and it's condemned, insane, no trust, flabbergasted, inclusiveness, won't listen, politics. This is not a political board. Well, laugh if you want to. I don't care. I've never used politics. Thank you for some of it. You're not laughing because you know me well enough to know that I don't do that. I pray to God before I do every decision I make in here. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. That's the reason them people back there in the back room call me Rhino all the time. I don't trust them. I try to do what's right for these people. I've always done that. I'll always, till December of this year anyway, as a lame duck, I'll do that. I've tried to help everybody I could help. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carter. Any other comment? All right, hearing none, this brings us to item number 8, informal public comments. And again, tonight we have a number of, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Okay. We're going to take just about a 5-minute recess to give time to perhaps go to the bathroom, whatever we need to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call us back into session. This will bring us to informal public comments, and again, we have a number of public speakers tonight, so I'm going to hold you pretty tightly to the 3-minute time frame. So we'll begin with Roxanne Reed.
It's nice to see all of you guys. I'm Roxanne Reed, 3060 Corporate Chapel Road. I've had several different things I wanted to say to you. I've been waiting a long time because I feel so passionately about this. And it's about the mega site and the industrial concern I have if an industry comes in there, what it would do to the water. I'm going to speak personally about what I know about this. I was an art professor for 25 years, and we didn't know about those chemicals in those days. We loved our jobs, and a lot of us got sick. Many of my colleagues, wonderful, incredible artists, professors, have died from leukemia to cancer to Parkinson's. The list goes on, and it's the same chemicals that an industry would bring to our waterway if they came in. And in good faith, I can't let it happen if I don't speak up and say what I've lived and seen. I'm wearing this because of my immune compromised situation. The Mayo Clinic said, well, you just breathe too much of the chemicals, and your immune system said it had enough, and it decided it would attack the ligaments in your joints. But I know you guys don't know about these chemicals, and neither do others that haven't had to go through it. And that's why I've kept such a keen eye on it, because I just bought land here to move back because of the water and because it's so clean here. I've lived in areas where there's so much arsenic in the water on the eastern coast of North Carolina that you can't drink it. I've lived in Charlotte, downstream on the Catawba River, where the air is so toxic it peels the chrome off of your car bumpers and your bikes. And I was born in Grace Hospital. You guys have one of the best gifts that can be given to mankind right here, and it's the water. The Catawba River, that watershed, most of the world would give anything for it. In Savannah, where I worked one of those 5 years at SCAD, we had only so many water limits, only so much water we could get. I'd drive up here, fill up the big buckets of water, the big, containers that you put on your dispenser, and take this water back home. And so I know, because I've taught for so many years, how important jobs are to the youth and education. I mean, I gave everything to the kids. But what I also know is that they can't enjoy it and they can't learn if they're not healthy without the water. So I think that the only logical thing that I see as a design professor is that you've got one place where the water exists, and it's right there. There's some other locations, and I'll help. We'll all teach them. We'll give them all jobs and educate them so they can learn. But I think we need to protect and save that waterway for all of us, for this generation and future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carla Kincaid? Carla Kincaid? I don't see Carla tonight. Joanne Kinch?
Hello, I'm Joanna Kinch, and you guys have all heard me over and over and over again about the mega site, and I just want to backtrack a little bit because I'm here to talk about several points from Mr. Ebley's presentation a few weeks ago. But after hearing what went on earlier tonight about the Department of Health and the large number of constituents, your voters, that are against this and not giving them any timeline, extending their timeline before you voted on it is just, I'm honestly shocked, but not surprised, because we've been going through this with the mega site for almost a year now. And Mr. Carswell and Mr. Mulvey, I don't even know how to say this, but you commented that the people don't trust. They don't trust. They explained to you. You guys listen to what we have to say week after week or month after month in our letters, our emails, our postings, and our meetings or no meetings. I've called you, you've not responded, but that's another story. But the fact remains, you listen, but you don't hear. You don't hear what the people want. This is a small community. If you guys want to be voted out, I mean, the same thing is going to happen next time. People have had enough. You're supposed to listen to the will of the people. They don't want micromanaging the health department. Why did you vote for it? You know, give them some time. Why don't you review the facts? But my position tonight is about the mega site, the mega disaster. We all know what a disaster it's going to be, like Roxy said, to the water, to the health of the people, the environment. I know you all just listen and hear, but don't really hear. But, you know, we're not going to give up on this. We've got people that are fighting for us, and we're going to continue the fight. We're going to peel back the onion. We're going to take it on, and we're not going to give up. This is a pristine location that should remain untouched. Those areas that you want to flip to industrial that are on the viewshed of the I-40 are totally going against what your own zoning guidelines are. And then you flipped what the planning board had recommended on the last time, where they decided against the conditional rezoning, and you guys voted against that. 97% of the time you follow along with the planning board. Why would you vote against it? Because you have a pet project that you want to see it through. Well, we're not going to allow it. We're going to fight it, and we've got a lot of people that are against it. And you guys need to pay attention. It's not right. There should not be a hazardous waste generating facility coming into Burke County, especially along the Catawba River in the Great Meadows mega site area, where it's untouched, pristine, and it could cause damage to human health and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kidd. Ann Chapman?
I'm Ann Chapman. Thank you for letting me speak. I live near the mega site proposal area. Who remembers the book by Dr. Seuss, The Lorax? It's a cautionary tale about a person's responsibilities to the environment. The book depicts a world in which all the trees have been cut down to make way for the factories, driven by consumerism, which in turn causes the pollution and destruction of the natural world. The Onceler is a reckless entrepreneur whose uninhibited ambition leads to the destruction of the immediate environment. The Lorax represents the interest of all the creatures whose lives are affected negatively by the Onceler's irresponsibility and environmental destruction. The story demonstrates on all the real consequences of careless consumption and greed. It gives the message we are to protect and preserve our natural resources. 53 years later, this book message warning about pollution, environmental issues is as important today as it ever was. Respect for the environment and all the living creatures will help us preserve the planet for ourselves and future generations. The main point of the Lorax is about empathy and caring enough to take action. Dr. Seuss writes, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Abraham Lincoln said, I like to see a man proud of the place in which he lives. I like to see a man live so that his place will be proud of them. We are not the owners of creation. Rather, the earth is the Lord's and in everything in it. Psalm 24:1. Christians acknowledge creation, care as an act of discipleship. We are stewards of the earth, summoned by God to work it and take care of it. Genesis 2:15. Our uses of the earth must be designed to conserve and renew it rather than to deplete, or destroy it. We all should ask ourselves these questions. Are you proud of where you live? Are you willing to conserve and renew the earth, rather deplete or destroy it? Are you willing to stand up to help protect, care, and show empathy for all the living creatures in the environment? I hope we all strive to answer yes.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Luke Harrell.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Luke Harrell, and this evening I believe that I'm speaking on behalf of Bell Farm, Sawmill Road, and Snow Hill Church. I agree with what everyone is saying about the water and wildlife, that it can hurt. What I'm going to try to point on right now is what y'all spoke about with the employment, how y'all are wanting to bring in more jobs. I agree. It's the growth of our county, and we need it. However, how are you going to bring in more jobs and not be able to fulfill the ones that are already needed? There's already plenty of businesses that are already out here that need employees. If there was people around here that wanted to work, those businesses would not have unemployment. They would not need somebody in a warehouse. They would not need a cook. They would not need a driver to deliver things. So how are you going to bring something else in that's going to take a few hundred, maybe 1,000 employees, which would be great if there was people that were needing work. But the people that are not working are not going to work. We already know that with everyone. If you give somebody something, they're going to take and run with it, or they're going to destroy it. This right here, all it's going to do is create business for people outside of this county. As a lot of y'all spoke at our last meeting, you said that there was a lot of people that had come, that were driving 30 minutes to an hour to come work in here. That's great. But their county needs business also. I bet there's plenty of employment that would be there that might be closer. And maybe people here that are driving 30 minutes away. Well, why don't you look at people or businesses around here that need employment? I know our company does. I know plenty of companies that do, that need people to work. So how are you going to bring in a business that is going to need to fulfill a few hundred employees that we don't have any? The people that are here that are not working are not going to work. Now, I agree with people that are coming up through high school like I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't go to college, but I found out I tried lineman work. I tried working in a mine. I went to the Marine Corps, but I found out that I wanted to come back home. And I did, and I work in Burke County. But I do not think that a mega business, well, not a mega site, but a large business that this would be, I don't think this is a good fit for Burke County. I think that small businesses, maybe 50 or maybe 100 less people of employees is what we need in this county, like we already have. For instance, the Drexel Furniture Company is torn down. All it is bricks and concrete that's sitting there right now. Why don't we pursue that land? Why don't we clear that off and build up a new company right there? That's already land that is kind of looking terrible right now. The earth moving that it would take to fill in this land that y'all were speaking of would take a lot of money and a lot of time. This is not dirt moving, that is earth moving. I have hunted and walked that land my whole life. It is straight up and straight down, all the way through. How are you going to fill a 200-foot crater that's 500 foot wide? That's just metric tons of dirt that you're going to have to bring in. Why would you do something to that? Then it would take a year to take a D11 dozer right over here to Drexel, clear it off, slap a new company right there, and that would be perfect. That would be not as an eyesore. That would give employees, that would give people here, if they didn't want to travel so far, they would have a company to go to right there. That would be a totally better place. And it would not harm the environment. It would not put an eyesore on a lot of things. And it would not have a 150-foot buffer, which is only a half of a football field. If it is full-grown land, you can look straight through 100 yards of woods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Danny Kinch.
Thank you. My name is Danny Kinch. I'm a resident of Burke County, and my companies are in Burke County. When I think of this mega site, I think of an old saying and a quote that we all know, and that's that those who do not remember the past and acknowledge the past are condemned to repeat it. And I think that's what we're looking at here with the mega site. What I'm referring to is every night when I drive home, I drive past the Burke County, the site on Cathy Road, whatever you call it, the business park. I actually went there about 12 years ago when I brought one of my companies here. And instead I rehabbed an existing old furniture place. But that's beside the point. So 20 years ago, Burke County Development started pumping millions of dollars into 83 acres that they clear cut 20 years ago. Recently, we put up this real attractive water tower. Again, millions of dollars over the last 20 years. We've had 83 acres of industrial sites sitting there for 20 years, and nobody's come in. We don't have one building on there. We have a pad. We don't have one employee who's contributing taxes to help pay all of us back for those multi-million dollars that were invested into a site that nobody wanted. Think about that. For 20 years, an industrial company doesn't want to come in. The pads were ready, the infrastructure. Boy, you've done everything you could to attract somebody. There's nobody there. Not one penny has been paid back to us as citizens for this investment, for this dream 20 years ago. Now we're talking about a project that's 15 times bigger. And we're going to build it because if we build it, they'll come. We're going to invest millions and destroy it. The best thing Burke County has going for it is our nature. You know, it's kind of ironic that on this big, beautiful water tower that we built, we put nature's playground. Isn't that ironic? On a nasty, ugly structure that everybody can see, and we put nature's playground? That's what we're giving up here. We're giving that up for a dream that could easily have been satisfied by a project that you started 20 years ago. So it boggles my mind to think that we've tried this, it didn't work, it's proven it didn't work, and now we're going to try it 15 times bigger because the state's given us a pile of money and we don't want to give it back. Oh my gosh, let's give it back to the taxpayers. From a business, but from a heart sense, in my case, this doesn't make any sense at all. We have plenty of opportunity for industry right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Keith. Debbie Green?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Dudley Green. I'm from Western North Carolina. My parents moved up here from Charlotte in 1960 and bought a boat dock at Canal Bridge from the Red Longer from the World War I veteran. My dad was a World War II veteran. And I was raised in that rock house. I've seen a lot of change at the lake. Some of it good, some of it bad. But you've been selling this county as nature's playground for 25 or 30 years or more. Now you're switching horses in the middle of the stream. You got $36 million almost from the state. Why don't you use this to fix some of the problems you talked about tonight? No, you're going to throw it away. Oh, who knows how much you're spending on this property. You haven't given an end price tag yet. This $36,000 is just for land purchasing and pad planning. I haven't seen or heard anything about highway infrastructure. You're not going to do anything for the intersection of 40 on Dyersville Road or 70. You're just going to make it a congested mess. You're going to kill some people. You've advocated your responsibility as elected officials to Mr. Wood. He has no accountability to us. He's not an elected official. You've been drinking out of the same cup he has, of developers and the promise of tax money. I mean, he's taking you down the road like a Pied Piper. You've lost your way. I'll tell you that much right now. And I'd like to, why don't you have a blueprint or something in black and white that says exactly what you plan to do with this area? Then we could understand it. No, you don't have that. You're either incompetent or don't care or hiding something. That's the way I feel about it. You're not being honest with the people of Burke County. And it's just the boondoggles all this place is gonna be up there. And speaking of Mr. Woods, I looked at BDI's 990 IRS form, and their salary and compensation for employees that on part one, their summary is $386.06. And from part what I can tell by that form is Mr. Wood himself made $176,000. He said right here in this form, he said nobody there got a salary. Is he not the chairman of the board and the CEO of BDI? He's not getting money. He's getting over $170,000 compensation. That sounds like a damn good chunk of change to me. And you don't care about it. And you turn it over to him. I mean, I want to see accountability for every penny of this almost $36,000 that's being put into this project. And it needs to be above board and out of Mr. Wood's hand. It's your gentleman's job to take care of this county, not his. We don't need this mega disaster up there. You're not calling it a mega site anymore. It's Great Meadows Industrial. Same difference, different name. And that's all I got to say now since it's out of time, but I'll be back.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I believe that's all the names I have. Madam Clerk, is that, you concur with that? All right. All right, this brings us, thank you for your time tonight. I know it's been a long night. Appreciate you hanging with us through this time to make your public comments. This will bring us to item number 9, consent agenda, and I'll recognize the county manager to review these items.
Mr. Chairman, very short consent agenda. Item 1 is to a recommendation to appoint Commissioner Randy Burns to an open seat number 1 on the Valley's Economic Development Investment Corporation Board for VEDIC. Item 2 for consideration is approval of a resolution that would fund a building reuse grant through the Department of Commerce. This is in partnership with the town of Hildebrand. Both Burke County and the town of Hildebrand will contribute a $4,375 match. The ultimate grant is going to an existing company in Burke County through, again, the Department of Commerce. It's a $175,000 grant. It's intended to create 47 new jobs and a capital tax-based investment of $1.1 million. Item 3 for consideration is a resolution appointing a plat review officer for the city of Morganton. This would be designated Logan, with the name Hanchett, and removing Wade Griffin. Item 4 for consideration is from Community Development. This is to adopt a resolution 2024-19 to execute a memorandum of understanding. This was connected to the Canal Bridge project at the lake, as you're all aware. We've got a grant of $1,240,522. That requires a 20% match. Both Friends of the Fauna Flora Trail and the Over Mountain Victory Trail nonprofits have contributed funds of $150,000 apiece to contribute towards that match. And the county would be filling in the very immaterial difference of roughly $10,000. Items 5 and 6 are your monthly tax reports. I'm pleased to report and very proud of our team. We're through July, 7.92% collected. And finally, item 6 is your typical monthly abatement and release report. Happy to answer any questions you or the board may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on any of these consent items? See and hear none, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That'll be 5-0, Madam Clerk. That'll bring us to item number 10, items for decision. Have a number of items for decision tonight. First item is, comes from the Board of Commissioners, resolution requesting NCACC legislative goal, pharmacy benefit managers. Gentlemen, you've had that resolution in your package, and if I could get my computer where it needs to be, I'll say a word about it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to talk on this.
If you got it, please do, sir. I
Burke County
apologize.
has 8 independent pharmacies that provide essential healthcare services to the county, including access to medications, patient education, and personalized care to the customers. Current practices of the pharmacy benefit managers, known as PBMs, have led to financial pressures and operational challenges for local independent pharmacies, threatening their sustainability and reducing access to critical healthcare services for the residents of the county. The following resolution requests that NCACC to formally adopt a legislative goal concerning the development and implementation of regulations that enhance transparency, ensure fair reimbursements, and protect local pharmacies and promote fair competition. In essence, what the PBMs is doing is putting local pharmacies out of business and try to privatize to big pharmacies where people can't go to a local pharmacy and get prescription medicines at a reduced rate. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2024-20.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. I'm still not there, so I appreciate that. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by uplifting the hand. And Madam Clerk, if you'll relay that tomorrow to our folks at NCACC so we can meet their deadlines on that item. Second item comes to us from the county manager, approval of lease for EV charging station at the Foothills Education Center.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request from the city of Morganton. There may be an optic here to help guide the conversation, but they've reached out to us. The city of Morganton received a grant from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. It was roughly $117,000. They required them to place 2 DC fast chargers within a mile radius of I-40. They reached out and asked for a permanent easement that will, it will only be 2 charging stations. It will not be marked for any logo. They've asked for an easement of 5 parking places simply because of repair and install area around, but only 2 parking places will be marked EV. The other ones will be free to be used for any customer or citizen who parks there. This is the survey of the 5 parking places, and I've highlighted in yellow where they are. So that would be Zaxby's to our left there. I've talked to our Parks and Recreation Director. He sees no challenge with providing these spaces. There's roughly 268 parking places there at the site. As you know, as we talked about earlier, we have been evaluating this property for potential reuse of public health and social services. You know, given the amount of employees and potential clients, I think that we would use all of the parking, but I don't know that 2 spaces in generally would impair that option either. But again, request from City of Morganton for this permanent easement. It could be removed, but they recommended because of cost of moving, if we were to ever ask them to leave, we would give them 12 months to do so. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Maybe you addressed my concern. You know, as I go by that parking lot quite often, it seems like it's pretty well full a lot of the time. I'm just a little concerned about giving up. That shows 5 parking spaces, but you're indicating they only going to use 2. Are we really sure that we want to give those parking spaces up? I guess I'm not posing that question to you. That's not your responsibility, but gentlemen, I just throw that out for consideration, given the fact that we are thinking about, you know, other possible uses here. You indicated they're only going to mark 2 places. Help me with that.
they asked, my understanding is the asking for 5 gave the ability to install all the infrastructure, but they're only going to mark 2, and there'll only be 2 chargers. So the other 3, if they had to repair, replace, they would, I suppose, use that area to access for repair. But we specifically asked if the other places would be available for general parking, and that answer was yes.
Did they indicate what kind of structures or facilities that was gonna be in or on around those 3 spaces?
So the 2 spaces will look something like that. I don't know that that's the exact unit. The other 3 will just look like normal parking places, is my understanding. Now, those 2 will have paint in them and say EV charging and those type of things. At least that's my understanding.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Is there any particular reason they chose Foothills to spend this grant?
It just had to be within 1 mile of I-40. And I suppose that we had, the most robust parking space around there. I know that they had also worked with Starbucks, and that had, maybe there's one there, but for, maybe there were challenges in timing and executing the grant, too, with other locations.
Mr. Chairman, I know, Brian, that they're putting others around the town. Do you know, or do we know how many is in that area that they already have? Is there any at the hospital? Is there any this close?
I've heard those data points, but I would be hesitant to try to share them off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure.
I'd be willing to give them to.
Any other questions?
So the additional 3, so if I'm kind of seeing this in my mind properly, if there's cars parked there, it basically just gives them permission to go and ask those drivers to move their cars so they can service the 2?
I think it's if they had to, if somebody damaged it or whatever, they may cone it off while they work on it. And that gives them this easement to access it during install, during repair or removal. And I'm not a technical expert in EV charging stations, but they said that they needed that 25 foot roughly or whatever outside of the 2 stations to do those repairs.
That's not gonna be a space where they're gonna have a transformer setting or some other piece of equipment to serve those other 2 spots. I guess that's
not like I specifically asked. The other 3 spots would be available for public parking in county and BDI and Department of our Board of Elections, and they said yes.
And if I recall, if we said, get it out of here in 12 months, no harm, no foul, is that the way you understand this?
Yes, sir. So they provide, they're the power provider. The county has no risk. We put an indemnification clause in the lease, so we have no liability of injury, or if somehow this shocked somebody or whatever the case may be, we have no cost of install, repair, or removal.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Manager, we keep saying 2 spaces, but actually, a couple of those spaces are gonna be taken up with the charger, isn't it? They can't, that's not a mobile charger, it's gonna sit there, so those spaces are gone too, is that right?
So I think that's the 2 that will be permanently designated for EV charging. The other 3 that make up the 5 on either side, or so that somehow that they can install, again, repair, fix. So of the 5, you'll have 2 spots that are designated EV charging, painted, marked that way with chargers, again, in the median, where someone can back in or pull in and plug up. They asked for 5 spaces, even though they're not going to use 5, because that extra, I think, and as I recall, it was 25 feet was needed for the technical install and so forth.
So Western Piedmont Community College is within a mile of interstate. I just wonder how they decided here.
I'm happy to ask those questions. I'm sure it was traffic count. I'm not sure if it had to be exit 105 or if it could be other access points off of I-40. their communication to us was that it had to be within a mile of 40. They had, I believe, started with Starbucks, and ran into maybe to some challenges, and because of the, I suppose, at least the appearance of adequate parking at Foothills and the relationship with the county, I imagine that's how we were approached.
So Brian, are you saying so if we decide in the future that we want those spaces back, we do have a way to get out of it?
Yeah, that's right.
Within 12 months?
Yes, sir.
Did they consider the upper parking lot, the overflow lot that's behind the medical buildings?
We talked about that, and we looked at that as additional parking for us down the road, should we need it. I've asked our team to evaluate that. I don't know if they looked at that, and if the grant requires it to be, you know, have some type of visibility or optic or be close to the road. I'm, you know, again, happy to ask those questions. I haven't asked those yet.
If we've got a 12-month out, our planning process for our future plans are not going to happen in that period of time. So if something does change, if we decide to use this as an option, by then this agreement will be expired.
And certainly nothing prevents our employees or our customers from using that as well.
Other question?
Sounds like maybe, is it the consensus that we table this for, get more information until next month? I mean,
I'm good either way. I'm good either way, because we're 12 months out at least, and it won't interfere with our future.
And if it's the board's decision, I didn't mean to cut you off, Commissioner, if it's the board's decision to not act now, may ask for authorization to answer these questions along with the county attorney and report back to the board, because I think they have a timeline, deadline with the grant. They have to accept it or not. And it'll likely be before your September board meeting. We may could do it pre-agenda as a decision item if you wanted to bring it back then. But I think 30 days, as I recall, may be a bit of a challenge for them.
Can we modify the motion to say for a period of 12 months?
For the
Like,
lease?
for example, to approve the easement agreement between the city of Morganton and Burke County for electric vehicle charging facility in Foothills Higher Education Center's parking lot for a period of 12 months, because that's how long the agreement's good for, right?
It's a permanent easement, so the easement stays in place unless you terminate it.
Okay. I'm good with it.
When you say permanent easement, and I read some of that terminology, Mr. Attorney, can we revoke a permanent easement? Or do we need to put some language in for that purpose?
Well, it is permanent until revoked. You have a right in this proposed easement to terminate it at any time with 12 months notice. So while it says permanent, it's only permanent as long as you let it be, or as long as they let it be. They may not want it for more than, say, 4 or 5 years, and you come into work one day and they've taken them out.
The 12-month timeline is a city ask too. That's not a grant requirement. So if the board was more comfortable with less, again, it was the cost of moving it. If this board decided we want these to be moved, the cost to do that was high enough. That's why they asked for more time. But if this board is comfortable with less time of notice, that is something you could pursue as well.
Yeah, I don't think 12 months, with the 12 month, then we're free and clear of it.
Does the easement begin after the vote tonight, or is that something that's not going to take effect till they get the grant?
The easement would be granted at the time the board approved the lease. Yes, sir. Again, the easement would be until you revoked it, but yes, if you approve the lease tonight and then tomorrow ask for it to be removed, they would theoretically have 12 months. Yeah.
After it's signed.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the easement agreement between the city of Morganton and Burke County for the electric vehicle charging facilities in Foothills Higher Education Center's parking lot, further to authorize the county manager to execute the associated documents subject to and or review or revision by the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. All right, thank you very much. Item number 3, County Manager approval of funding for professional services to oppose Charlotte Water's IBT request. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you're all well aware, the region, the Catawba River Basin region, is building a coalition to challenge Charlotte Water's interbasin transfer request and application. We know that that's a request to transfer an additional roughly 33 million gallons a day from Catawba River Basin to the Yadkin River Basin. And we are fearful that that'll have an impact on water quality as well as capacity for housing and economic development. The Council of Government, which Commissioner Burns is the vice chair of, has taken a lead role in that, and of all their members, they've put together a funding list, and I think we have an optic of that. Burke County's portion is about 32,000, you can see there, or 28,000, excuse me, I apologize, and that's a product through a formula they've estimated costs for marketing, costs for legal services, costs for engineering services, costs for advocacy to lawmakers, to again try to reduce or stop this petition for an interbasin transfer. They've allocated the estimated cost for those services based on population per capita and then the size of your water sewer fund. And so again, you see all of the contributors, and Burke County is being asked to contribute $28,279.11. That doesn't have a fiscal impact. We have, we can afford that at the board's discretion, from reserve funds and from unprescribed, unreserved contingency accounts. And so the request before you is to approve, deny, or change this request from Western Piedmont, from the COG for the contribution for professional services.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. I think maybe you're looking at the wrong line or number or something, because the number I see is 32,128.
That's what I had. Apologize. That's what I had in my mind. And, but I do know, I've talked to Mr. Starr, and they did recalculate it, so I'm wondering if what's in our packet was the original and this is the modified. But regardless, it's either 28,279.11 or it's 32,121, which is also the number I had in my mind.
Does that say 28 up there?
That number, I believe, says 28,279.11.
I certainly can't see that number. Okay, so what number do you propose that we?
Maybe a number not to exceed 32,121, and that would cover if it's this.
Okay. Any questions on this item, gentlemen? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, it sounds like if Charlotte and Mecklenburg has their way, we won't have to worry about Lake James getting polluted or anything, because it'll be gone. So therefore, I make a motion to approve an appropriation to the Western Piedmont Council of Governments not exceeding $32,121.38 for professional services related to opposing Charlotte Water Basin's interbasin transfer request.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 5-0. Thank you very much. Item number 4 comes from the Tax Department. We'll hear from our Tax Administrator, Mr. Bridges. Come on down, John. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have the annual summary for the 2023-24 tax year in front of you. Do you want me to read this, Mr. Chairman, all these figures, or go over the highlights, or what?
No, I don't think so.
There's a lot of figures.
Gentlemen, you've got this information in front of you, the Tax Department Collection Annual Settlement Report. If you will, and I presume that you've already looked through them, was there any questions that might have come to mind? I felt like because this was not a kind of a routine item, I felt like it was the best that it come to us on decision. And are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the tax collection settlement report for 2023, 2024 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 5, order to collect 2024 taxes. This also comes from our tax administrator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is also the charge to collect delinquent taxes as well. And so for the county and taxes, other charges is $1,425,694.92. All other jurisdictions for taxes and other charges is $192,898.09 for a total of $1,618,583.93.01.
Okay, gentlemen, you've got that in summary in front of you as well. Since I didn't ask him to read all those pages of folks' names on that last one, are there any questions on this item, on this summary?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to order the tax administrator to collect the current and prior year's delinquent taxes on real and personal property, and further to authorize the chairman to execute the order on behalf of this board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carswell. All in favor of that motion, signify by the uplifted hand. That is 5-0. All right, this brings us to item number 11, reports tonight. Let me just give you a few reminders. Before I do that, we'll start down here with Miss Margaret. Miss Margaret, you got anything for us tonight?
I do. Several of you got emails today from our audit firm with some letters attached. It is legitimate, and if you would please fill us out and return them, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
No comments, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
I'll be very brief. I've distributed to each board member an operational capacity analysis. It lists about 70 items across every department. Every department in county government is included except for one. And it ranks all activities from projects, policy deliverables that we're working on across county government outside of our normal day-to-day job. So example, it doesn't say tax collections, it's collecting taxes, but it would be them managing software conversions and doing some other project deliverables. I'm very proud of that work. We worked hard on it. It's about 30 pages. And I think it's indicative of the hard work that the county staff are doing. So I'm very proud of our entire team for putting that together.
All right, Mr. Smith.
I don't have anything to say except in honor of Marty Queen and Briscoe Darling, I'm ready for a bed and a Bible.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Burns.
I just want to mention that this week, there's a lot of kids out there going for open houses at schools, you know, and I just ask everybody if they would. I know I'm certainly going to keep them in my prayers as the school gets kicked off this year, and that everybody travels to and from safe.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Hard to pull that old school board out, isn't it? Mr. Vice Chair.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carter.
Appreciate all of you attending the NCACC conference. That was nice to see all of you there along with the county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. It was good to attend the meeting together. We also were proud of Commissioner Carswell for receiving some well-deserved accolades there, and congratulations again, Johnny, on those awards that time and your effort for this board at NCACC for all the time that you have given and expertise and experience down there. We appreciate your willingness to do that. That'll bring us to courtesy reminders. August 29th, we have ribbon cutting at Jonas Ridge Waste and Recycling Center. We're looking forward to that up on Highway 181 up near Newland. September 2nd, county offices will be closed in observance of Labor Day. However, the landfill and convenience sites will be operating during their regular scheduled hours on September the 2nd. September 3rd, I'll remind you of our Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting at 3 p.m. Youth groups interested in leading the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of the commission meeting can sign up via the form on the county's website. And certainly encourage folks that are leaders in those kinds of groups to help us with our Pledge of Allegiance. Spay and neuter your pets, foster your pet at Burke County Animal Services, cover your loads as you go to convenience centers, don't litter, and if you see some trash, pick it up. That would be great. Board of Commissioners will take action on the bids and contracts for the new Animal Services Shelter and EMS Station at our pre-agenda October meeting. Because of timing with returns on bids, we don't think those will be back in our possession by our September meeting. So I just alert you that we will have a decision item on pre-agenda in our October pre-agenda, which is the 3rd, something like that. So that's all the announcements we have. And Madam Clerk, I will call on vacancy announcements, please.
Pre-agenda is October 1st. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ areas, Burke County Board of Health, Hickory Regional Planning Commission, Drexel Planning Board for the ETJ alternate seat, Burke County Board of Adjustment, and the Burke County Planning Board.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and as always, I would encourage citizens to look at these opportunities and give consideration to helping our county with these various vacancies. And you can always get on our website or contact the clerk, and she will be glad to assist you with applications for those positions. Closed session tonight. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential, and if needed, to discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss economic development matters, to discuss contractual matters, and to discuss personnel matters as authorized by NCGS 143.31811A 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All those in favor of that motion signify by the uplifted hand. All right, with about a 2 or 3 minute recess, we'll pick up in closed session. And I want to thank all of you guys for hanging with us tonight. It's been a long meeting. Appreciate your willingness to stay here and listen to the bitter end. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll call ourselves back into session. Do I hear a motion to come back into session? All in favor? Raise your hand. All right, coming out of closed session, back into regular session, I'll make the announcement that action taken in closed session was 12 sets of closed session minutes for 2022. Meetings were approved and sealed. The dates were February 15th, April 19th, June 16th, June 21, July 19, August 16, September 20, October 4, October 18th, November 3rd, November 15th, December 5th. All of those were 2022 closed session minutes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, raise your hand.